So the bike should be running, but it's not. And I got some good reasons why. First of all, well, not first of all, it was having problems running. Specifically, one cylinder wasn't combusting at all. Like, you could put your hand on the exhaust and it was cold, which, you know, obviously means that there's something wrong with the combustion. Something isn't right. Either you're missing spark or you're missing fuel or air or compression. So troubleshooting began, and I didn't have a problem with spark because, you know, I'd tested the spark with a spark tester and took the plugs out, put them in the plug wires, rested them on the engine, and, you know, I was getting sparks from the spark plugs. So that left me with fuel. Definitely wasn't air because I was running lean anyways, so I was definitely getting enough air in there. So, and compression was fine, I could feel it. So that left me with fuel. And I was, you know, one carb was doing really well, the other one not so much. So one cylinder was working hard, the other one was not. So what I had to do was take the carbs off, and I'm trying to figure out why one carb is getting good fuel, the other one isn't. So I took the bowls off, and I saw that on the bike, let's see, this is how it was. That's how it sat on the bike. This one was not firing, this one was firing. So when I took all the bowls off and everything, I saw that this side had insane amounts of fuel, this side was just fine. It had like I guess a moderate amount of fuel in it, maybe a little low. But I took the floats off and I took a second look at the float needles, and I saw a big difference. Difference being the this will never focus. Maybe you can see it a little bit. There's the needle itself, little spring here in the top of this that you can push down on. On the carb that wasn't overflowing and was running right, which I believe was this one, so that would make it, yeah. This one was running right. It has, you know, the little needle in there is functioning properly, up and down, up and down. This one, I think, is the wrong type of well, I think it's stuck. But, you know, there's the little plunger at the top. You can't move it up and down at all. It's stuck. Or it's just the wrong one. So, this is something it either happened, I probably should have checked for it. I can't imagine I wouldn't, but whatever. It's neither here nor there. But I need a new float needle, because what it was doing, because it was never pushing up on the float itself to shut off gas flow into the carb. So the carb was really flooding. You could tell too when I took off the carbs, there's a ton of gas in this one, not a lot of gas in this one. This one wasn't firing right, this one was. So I think this one was just flooded, and it wasn't, yeah, and, you know, that's a little bit of an issue right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order another one of these needles, and swap it in, and we should be fine after that. And I think I actually might have one lying around. I'm not sure. I doubt it though. I'll look a little bit, but I think I'm just going to have to replace this. So, that's that. So wouldn't you know it, but I do have another one of these lying around. Just make sure it's the same type as the one that I already got in there, and that I don't lose this on the ground in the bottomless pit that is my shop's floor. See if it's the same. Yeah, it looks the same. Plunger works. Awesome. Cool. So let's put these back in here. as soon as the camera turned off, it went in right, and I stopped struggling. 2, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just making sure I have all my bowl screws. I didn't lose any. So now, see, there's some spring in the bowls. And that's what you want. Before, this one was just sitting straight down. It wasn't springing on anything. That's how they're supposed to work. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these all back on, throw them back on the bike, put some more fuel in it, and hope that it runs right. So I'm going to set my ignition timing, valve clearance, just do a basic tune-up on the bike. And how you do it on these Kawas is that everything you need to do all that is right here on the right side of the engine. There's your points and everything like that. And obviously if you do this work, have the ignition off because you don't want to be touching this crap when the ignition's on. Get a nasty shock. So I already did the valve clearance on the right hand side, which you use the T mark in this little window here. Oh, let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get it. Maybe? No. So, you're gonna have to tilt your head sideways. In this little window here, you're gonna look in there and there's gonna be a mark coming down from here. And then on the wheel inside, there's gonna be an F and a T and some other marks. So when you're timing the right-hand side, you rotate the engine and use a 17 mil. Use a 14 mil, you're getting on this like loosening nut here, and just use the 17 on the bigger nut here. You're gonna set it to F, or no, to T, I'm sorry, to T. T lines up. Take these off here, and then measure with a clearancing tool, but I'm gonna do it on the other side of the engine. So what I have it mixed, what I have it set to is the mark is, there's a little timing mark there, if you can see in there, that is for the left hand side of the engine. So that's what I'm timing to. So now, get our clearancing tool, and I'm using this one set at 0.127 millimeters. They say to set it at if you can set it in the middle of the range, which is 0.10 to 0.15, you can set it to like 0.13, you're good. So I'm just using 0.17, this is the closest I have. So if you're not quite sure what stroke you're on, and what side of the engine you need to be setting your timing at, best way to do it is set it to one of those marks, and then open up these windows here, and if you can move the tappet up and down like that, then you know the valve is closed and you can clearance it. So you want to pull up on it a little bit, not a lot, just enough to slide the gauge in there, and if you feel a little bit of resistance like that, that's exactly what you want. Now if you were going to adjust it, you're going to get, I believe this is a 10 millimeter, and get this nut loosened up, and then there's a screwdriver on top here, and you basically loosen it up to the point where you can easily slide your clearancing tool in there, and then slide it in there. Get the screw down until you're feeling the right amount of clearance, and then tighten the nut, and then recheck it to make sure. So I'm going to do it on this side, just to make sure that we're good on both sides. Oops. It's falling. Alright, we are good. So once you're good on all that, on every side, you're within that 0.10 to 0.15 range. Ideally I like to shoot for the middle. Once you're in there, tighten it all back up. And then we can go and set our ignition timing, starting with the points and then moving on from there. So what we're going to do first is we're going to check the, well, it's first as far as ignition stuff, we're going to check the points gap. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, number one, you know, if you got an old bike, you ought to be going through this stuff anyways. But the reason why I'm doing it is that I think that my ignition timing's a little bit off. Specifically when I'm around, like, you know, when I'm below 3,000 RPM, everything sounds pretty good, but once the advancer essentially would start kicking in around like 3,000 to 4,000 RPM and up, start backfiring like crazy. So I think that I'm a little bit off. So let's check that timing. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate the engine this way until this point here opens up as big as it's going to get. So that's, god damn, there's so many spiders and shit on my bike. They work so fast in my garage, it's crazy. Alright, so let's rotate this. Well, it's open now. Let's just... Okay, now it's closed. Open. So I think around there. So, let me see here. Proper gaps 0.3 and 0.4. 0.3, 0.4 millimeters. Let's see if I can find it on my old shitty clearance for 0.3 and 0.4. Proper gap is 0.3, 0.4. So I have a 0.35. And these are so old I can hardly tell what's what. So I can see it's a 0.35, so I'm just going to go with that. Slide in the middle, see if it gets in there. There's, you know, there's a little bit of clearance, but I think it's a little on the low side. Let's see if we can get closer to 0.3 and see if I'm just using too big of a gauge here. 0.4, 0.38, 0.35. 0.30. So this is minimum thickness. So it's a little, you know, it's a little on the low side. I think I could adjust it a little bit. Get a little bit more open. So I'm going to shoot for the middle. I'm going to get 0.35 as far as clearance goes. And yeah, there it is. And I'm going to adjust this gap here. So I'm going to get my screwdriver out. These screws are always gnarled. Okay. That should allow me to move this around a little bit. Whoa. Yep, there we go. So you move it by adjusting this little guy here. And again, make sure the engine is off. Because man, you're gonna get shocked if that stuff opens up. Alright, so stick it in here with a lot of gap. Close it up. That's too much. Just keep trying. I'd say that's about right. Right there. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's tighten her back up. Oh, moved. Neighbor just got a new R6. So he blew the engine on the old one. Let's make sure this is right. Alright. This stuff will move. So So you gotta make sure. Tighten it up and then recheck. Just to make sure. Because it'll usually close up a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Alright. And it, you know, being that I kind of went for the middle here, if it's just a smooch on the tight side or a smooch on the loose side, you know, it's still going to be within spec. Yeah. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let's actually set the timing. So I think I need to go to the F mark. I'm just checking my book to make sure here. Yeah, F mark. Okay, so I need to grab my multimeter. To do this next part, and the engine does need to be, or the ignition does need to be on. So I have this set to ohms, which I assume is just, that should be okay, because essentially all we're going to be doing with this is going to tell us when the point's open. Usually you can do this with a light bulb, but this is more accurate. So let's get this. Let's see here. I haven't done timing in a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your number was on at the top of the list. Gee, I'm sorry.
Actually, let's just make sure that this gap is correct. Let's make sure this is all moving correctly. And recheck the gap. Yep, that's good. Cool. Alright, now let's put this to F. Now again, you're looking in this little window here. Let's put this to the F mark. Right there.
Oh, I might have gave you that because I get rid of the cars I keep for credit.
So basically at this point, when the F mark is there, well, there's only one F mark, so okay. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up these screws on the backing plate. Well, actually, first, let's do this. Let's make sure. Oh, excuse me. It's going to be a little difficult to do, but I think just do it like this, maybe? Something like this, we should be able to tell. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. Damn it, how am I going to be able to make sure these guys stay here? I can't do it just by eye. I guess I could do it by eye. Okay, let's loosen these guys up first. Luckily, these screws are not super stripped. Get this out of the way for a sec. Okay, that's all you need. Just loosen them a little bit. And then you can adjust the plate. Set you back. Okay. Just make sure I can. This is loose enough to be adjusted. again, the engine's off, so.
Make that money will get too hot. They'll tell you to do it.
Okay, it's moving. I think it's. I don't know. I think I'm on the wrong stroke. Let me see. Oh no, maybe I'm not. I don't want to loosen. So that's T on the other side. This is definitely the compression stroke now. I think I missed the F. There's F. And if this is right, it should start. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the right mark. Just want to make sure. What I was looking for there was to see when the F mark, when I'm on the F mark, if the points start to open or close. I just wanted to make sure that that was right. And I'm just doing this because I'm not going to be touching this thing when I'm actually setting this. I'm not going to be touching this because then I'll get shocked. So I'm just practicing to make sure I can do this correctly. So let's turn the bike on. And again, you ain't touching that. That's bad news if you do that. Okay, bike's on. Let's check our resistances here. What did I do? Nothing so far. Let's adjust this way. Oh, hey buddy. I just want to see if I'm getting any readings. I'm not getting any readings. I think I have my, I think my thing isn't. Oh, there we go. There's some readings. What the fuck is that guy looking at? Okay, so let me bring this back a little bit. Okay, let's see if I got any readings. So it should be closed. I'm basically just looking for the anything to read on the electric meter. So I'm gonna move this a little bit. Oh. So now it's open a little bit. So we want to get it right at that point where it just starts to open.
Oh, okay, I never remember that. So I gotta reach
I think I'm at that point right now. Let me just make sure. Because right now it should be. What are you doing, buddy? Yeah, so that's. I think that's it. So I'm gonna go with that. So I think that is pretty much exactly when it starts to open. And it looks like, as far as where it started, it looks like it might have been a little off, but I don't think it was like too much off. So let's tighten the base plates up. Then I'll get the strobe out and check the advance, make sure all that stuff's working correctly. You definitely want to tighten these guys up a little bit. You don't want this thing moving on you. So I'm gonna hook up my strobe to this, and you literally you cannot you can't see it on video. It's not possible. But when you hook the strobe up, you're gonna hook one part of the strobe up to the battery, the other part to the one of the ignition wires. And you're going to hold the strobe down. What the strobe's going to do is essentially it's going to show you, it's going to flash every time that the point's open. So what you want to be able to see is that when it's flashing, the timing mark and the F mark are at the same place every single time. And then when it advances, you know, it hits the advance point as well on the window in there. So I'm not going to show you that on camera because there's no way to show you. But you know, this will get you pretty close, the static timing. But the strobe timing is like, that's where, you know, that's where the real money's made. So I'm going to do that and check back.